Yeah, they can handle. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go.
Lion Olive. The one who makes a net of prohibiting
I
greens,
think today,
right?
with no Chazara.
Oh, I forgot to move my thing. I'm sorry. Forgot to move it. I'm sorry. Where?
Zayin Dalet.
No, there we are, right here. Okay. Lion Dolly. If someone who makes a net of prohibiting a house is permitted the upper story, these are the words of her mayor. The could comment, however, say the upper story is included in the term house. One who makes a net of prohibiting from the upper floor is permitted the house. And one who makes a net of prohibiting a bed is permitted the footstool. These are the words of her mayor. The comment, however, say a footstool is included in the term bed. And one who makes a net of prohibiting a footstool is permitted the bed. One who makes a net of prohibiting a city is permitted to enter the tchum of the city, but is forbidden to enter the extension. But one who makes a net of prohibiting a house is forbidden from the door frame and inward. If a person said, Konam, these fruits to me, may they be Konam for my mouth, for may they be Konam to my mouth, he is forbidden whatever is received in exchange for them. And whatever grows from them with respect to my eating or with respect to my tasting, he is permitted whatever is received in exchange for them and whatever grows from them. If it is a thing whose seed decomposes, but for a thing whose seed does not decompose, even what is grown from what is grown is forbidden.
Right. So just to take another look at that concept of the of Peros. When something is asked to a person. So remember we had in Trumos, if somebody planted truma, then what grows out of it, Minatora, is mutar. Mm-hmm. Okay, but you know we had certain areas on the truma that if it was planted deliberately, then we treat it as if it was truma. But we made that distinction between things where the seed disintegrates before it germinates and regrows, right, or whether it's something that just grows from a bulb, like onions and garlic, which are leeks and things like that, which if they grow from the bulb, they don't ever disintegrate; they just regrow from that bulb. Okay, so there is the difference over there, which we see that if he asked himself to that particular thing, then then if the seed disintegrates, wait, hold on, we said, so if he, and it also matters what kind of isser he places on himself. If he places an isser hana, if he places an isser achila. If he places an isser hana, then it doesn't matter because that's hana, that the fact that it grew out into something else, that's a hana. But if it's achila, then is it considered a new creation once it's been planted and grown? So we say once it's been swapped or something grows from it, then it's mutar unless it's something that doesn't disintegrate in the ground, in which case it's still considered the same plant, which is acetate. So we see in a similar vein in Mishna Zayin, the guy says to his wife, he has an argument with his wife, and he says, Konam masi yadayich alai, and he says, anything that you make is asur to me. Konam hein al pi, or he uses the expression they're asur to my mouth, or konam hein lafi, however he wants to express it, like to my mouth. We said in the previous Mishnah that even though he's saying to my mouth, he doesn't mean it as isra achila. He means it as an isra hana. That's the way we interpret it. Asr b'chilufein or b'giduleihin, and therefore, since he's asked to have any benefit from it, then even if it's swapped or if it's planted and grows, it's still asked to him. She'eni ochel. However, if he explicitly says that he takes a neder from eating it, she'eni to'em, or from tasting it, mutar b'chilufein or b'giduleihin, because his isser is only from hana and from eating, not from hana. Mm-hmm. So as a matter of fact, when we saw that other Mishnah that said Ein bein amudar achila la amudar hana ela drisas haregel bilvad, it's not just drisas haregel, and kalim, that's also kalim that are not used for food. It's also that you can swap them. That if Not that he can. Wait, no. If it's achila, if it's an isra achila, then he is allowed to. Then he would be allowed to swap them himself, because it's not an isra of hana. He's allowed to. He's allowed to sell them and use the food, use the money for something else. Okay, but in terms of gidulein, if he replants the thing that he said is asur for his own achila, again it's a b'davar shezara kaleh. So if it's a grain and the seed disintegrates before growing something else, that's fine. Aval b'davar she'ein zara kaleh, afilu gidulei gidulin asurin. Even if you have several generations of plants being replanted from this original thing that he assured to himself, is still assured to him. Yeah. Mishna ches, she'at osa eini ochel ad Pesach. Now we started working with time constraints. So he makes a neder on his wife that whatever you make, I'm not going to eat until Pesach. Okay. She'at osa eini nitkaseh ad Pesach, or whatever she weaves, he's not going to wear until Pesach. As talifnei Pesach, so if she makes it before Pesach, mutar lechol liskasos achar Pesach. So then he's nonetheless mutar to have it after Pesach, because he put a time restriction on the neder itself.
Put a time restriction. All right. Okay.
Right. So he said he's only asked to have it until Pesach. But after Pesach, it's good. She'at osa ad Pesach eini ochel. But if he rephrases the sentence that whatever you make before Pesach, I'm not going to eat. Whatever you make before Pesach, I'm not going to wear. As talifnei Pesach, if she makes it before Pesach, asur le'echol liskasos achar Pesach. Now the restriction of before Pesach is talking about what's going to be asur, not when it's going to be asur. So things that she makes before Pesach are going to be asur to him forever. It depends on how he phrases it. He says it's the difference between what you make before Pesach is asur to me, or what you make is asur to me until Pesach.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Now another variation of this in Mishna test. She'at nenes li ad Pesach. He makes a neder that she is not allowed to benefit from him until Pesach. Im telchi lebeis avich ad Chag. If you go to your father's house before Sukkot. Interesting here, because we presumably here we're talking about a time before Pesach, right? Between Sukkot and Pesach, and he's saying,
okay, right. So
we're sitting, let's say, around Purim time, and he says that you should have no hana from me until Pesach, if you go to your father's house between now and Sukkot. Okay, so now this is going to be one of these an interesting case, because we won't know if she's asked her to benefit from him before Pesach until it's been to Sukkah. So we have to retroactively clarify whether the neder was chal or not. So can she restrain herself from going to her father's house up until Sukkot? So it says the Mishnah, if she goes to her father's house before Pesach, okay, now that's all clarified. Then she's asked to benefit from her husband until Pesach. After Pesach, however, if she goes after Pesach, so lo yachel devaro. This is now the situation is that she has violated the neder. If she benefited from her husband before Pesach, now she has to be careful not to go to her father's house, because if she does, then retroactively it'll turn out that she violated the neder. Okay, so really what it actually is saying, having benefited from her husband before Pesach, it's now asur for her to go to her father's house until Sukkot.
Until Sukkot, because all right, because that's such a long. Oh, I guess okay, good. I got it. All right.
Okay, so that's because he's right, because his vow is binding. Okay, she'at nenes li ad Chag im telchi lebeis avich ad Pesach. Now the simpler case, he makes an neder on her that she'll be asur to benefit from him until Sukkot if she goes to her father's house before Pesach. Okay, if she goes before Pesach, asur b'hanasa ad Chag, moteres lelech achar Pesach. However, if she manages to hold herself back until after Pesach, then of course she's allowed to go to her father's house after after Pesach, because now the condition of the neder was not chal. Even though the condition, even though the result of the neder would have been effective until Sukkot, but the predicate is that she has to is that she didn't go to her father's house before Pesach. Therefore, between Pesach and Sukkot, she's okay.
Oh, okay, all right. Because she didn't go.
Right, because she didn't go. Once she didn't go before Pesach, then the neder was not chal at all, and therefore she's allowed to go to her father's house all the way till Sukkot and thereafter, presuming her husband doesn't make any more Nedarim. Okay.
Okay.
Azara. Dalet Zayin.
Dalet Zayin. If someone is prohibited by a neder to benefit from another and he does not have what to eat, the other person goes to the storekeeper and says, so-and-so is prohibited by my neder to benefit from me, and I don't know what to do. He gives him and collects from this one. If he had a house to be built, a fence to be erected, and a field to be harvested, the other person goes to the workers and says, so-and-so is prohibited by a neder to benefit from me, and I don't know what to do. They may work for him and collect wages from this one. If they were traveling on the road and he did not have what to eat, he gives food to someone else as a gift, and that one is permitted it. If there is no one else with them, he puts it on a rock or on a fence and says, these are free for whoever should want, and that one takes and eats. But Yossi, however, forbids. So this means he just puts it on a rock and leaves it there, and for anyone who needs it, including himself?
Yes, including himself. So once something's hefker, you're allowed to take possession of hefker again.
Right.
In fact, that's what people do when it comes to beer of the Shias. Shias produce. When people have excess Shemitah produce and it's no longer available in the field, they do beer by going in front of a bunch of people and saying, Harei Hefker, and then he can immediately pick it up again himself.
Partners who are prohibited with a neder the benefit of each other are forbidden to enter the yard. Eliezer ben Yaakov says, this one is entering into his own property, and this one is entering into his own property, but both are forbidden to install a mill or an oven there or to raise chickens. If one of them was prohibited by a neder from benefiting from the other, he may not enter the yard. And Eliezer ben Yaakov says, he may say to him, I am entering my own property, I am not entering yours, and we force the one who made the neder to sell his share. If someone from the street was prohibited by a neder to benefit from one of them,
that's it. We're done.
Okay. Why did they pick chickens to say, I'm making this neder against it? How did he word it? He said, both are forbidden to install a mill or an oven there or to raise chickens. Right. Why did they say cows?
Why is that? Because that's okay. So that's a subtlety that's worth talking about. Is that you're allowed to use your half of the chatzer for whatever's normally used. But when it comes to things like raising chickens in the yard, that you need special permission from your neighbor, because that's going to be an inconvenience. They make a noise and they make a mess and whatever. So you actually need to ask your neighbor's permission if you're going to put chickens in your yard. Now, that means that if your neighbor is like you've got a neder against the neighbor who you can't get benefit from him, so his permission is now considered a hana.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's why.
All right. Figure that. All right. They could raise anything. Okay. All right.
Okay. Kesibos Hazaim.
Okay. If a woman rebels against her husband, they decrease her ketubah by 7 dinners a week. Rabbi Yehuda says 7 tropiaks. Until when does he decrease? Until he decreases a sum corresponding to a ketubah. But Rabbi Yossi says he may go on decreasing it continually. Perhaps an inheritance will fall to her from somewhere else, and he will collect therefrom. Likewise, if one rebels against his wife, they increase her ketubah for 3 dinners a week. Rabbi Yehuda says 3 tropiaks. If one supports his wife through a third party, he may not give her less than 2 kavim of wheat and 4 kavim of barley. Said Rabbi Yossi, no one provided her with barley except Rabbi Ishmael, who was near Edom. He must give her half of a cob of beans, half a log of oil, and a cob of dry figs or a manna of pressed figs. If he has none, he must provide her in their stead with produce of another kind. He must give her a bed, a mattress, and a mat. He must give her a veil for her head, a girdle for her loins, shoes from festival to festival, and clothes worth 50 zuz from year to year. He may not be given new ones. She may not be given new ones in the summer or warm ones in the winter, but must be given the clothing worth 50 zuz in the winter, and she clothes herself with them. And when they are worn out in the summer, and the worn out clothing is hers. He must give her a silver ma for her needs, and if she eats with him on the night of every Sabbath, if he does not give her a silver ma for her needs, her handiwork is hers. What must she do for him? The weight of 5 selim of warp in Judea, which equals 10 selim in Galil, or the weight of 10 selim of woof in Judea, which equals 20 selim in the Galil. If she was nursing, they decrease her handiwork requirement and add to her food. When does it supply? In the case of the poorest in Israel, but in the case of the wealthy, everything is according to his wealth. Okay. Okay. Notice we have Similarly, if no rains fell on a particular city, it is stated, I caused it to rain on one city, and on one city I caused no rains to fall. One field was rained upon, that city must be fast and sound the shofar, and all surrounding areas fast. But do not sound the shofar. I'm losing this page. Stuck together. Okay. But do not sound the shofar. Rabbi Akiva says they sound the shofar, but do not fast. Similarly, a city in which there's a pestilence or collapse of a building, that city must fast and sound the shofar. And all surrounding areas fast, but do not sound the shofar. Rabbi Akiva says they sound the shofar, but do not fast. What is considered pestilence? In a city that can bring forth 500 men on foot, and 3 men died on 3 successive days. And if 3 men died on 3 successive days, it is considered pestilence. Fewer than this is not considered pestilence. There's one thing I wanted to see over here. Okay, I got it. For these plagues, we sound the shofar everywhere, for wind blast and for yellowing of grain, for numerous locusts and for finishing locusts, it is for a wild beast or for sword. We sound the shofar on these occasions because each is considered a traveling plague. Okay.
That's a shame you hate them all.
Karen Ravai, Beit Shammai says it is not liable to the fifth or to the bear, but Beit Hillel says it is. Beit Shammai says it is liable to parrot and it is liable to oliet, but the poor redeem for themselves. But Beit Hillel says all go to the winepress. Excuse me. How do they redeem Nedarim Ravai? He places the basket 433 and says, how much does a person want to redeem for himself for a seller with the provisions that the expenses be borne by his household? And he puts down the money and says, anything gathered from this is redeemed with this money. So many baskets for a seller. And in the 7th year, he redeems it for its value. And if we all would render hefker, he has only the cost of gathering. If one redeems his own Nedarim Ravai, he must add a fifth of it, whether it is his or was given to him as a gift. Okay. Ryan. The Baharis with white hair that subsequently covered him completely is tahor, even though the white hair remains. The Baharis that has expanded and subsequently covered him with completely is tahor. In all of these cases become tameh if the extremities return, and if it spread partially, he is tameh. If it covered him completely, he is tahor. Whenever extremities spread completely and the spreading rendered a tameh tahor, when they return, they render him tameh. When the extremities return and returning rendered a tahor or tameh, if they became covered with nega, he is tahor. If they became uncovered, he is tameh even 100 times. Anyone anywhere subject to becoming tameh from nega of baharis impedes the status of complete spreading. Anywhere not subject to becoming tameh from nega of baharis does not impede the status of complete spreading. How so? The nega covered him completely except for the head or the beard, and except on a raw boil, burn, or wound, literally unto a rebellious boil, burn, or wound. If the hair of the head or beard fell out, or the boil, burn, and wounds partially healed, they allow him to remain tahor. If it covered him completely except for an area the size of a half a lentil, next to the head, beard, boil, burn, or wound, and subsequently the hair of the head, beard fell out, or the boil, burn, or wound partially healed, even if the normal looking skin became afflicted with baharis, he is tameh until it covers him completely. Okay. Reb Meir says, limit your business activities and engage in Torah study. Be of humble spirit before every person. If you should neglect the study of Torah, you will be confronted with many causes of neglect. But if you labor in the Torah, he has ample reward to give you. Eliezer ben Yaakov says, he who fulfills even a single mitzvah requires for himself a single advocate, while he who commits even a single transgression requires for himself a single accuser. Repentance and good deeds are like a shield against misfortune. Reb Yochanan Hansanla says, every assembly that is dedicated to the sake of heaven will endure, but one that is not up for the sake of heaven will not endure. Reb Eliezer ben Shammai says, let the honor of your student be as dear to you as your own, and the honor of your colleague as the reverence for your teacher, and the reverence for your teacher as the reverence for heaven. Okay, good.
So we learn about this Koknet Yashihi, the Shem Shemaim Sofa is Kanyem. We're now in Parshas Korach.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
Korach is next. There was some Parsha this week too. Big Parsha. Well, all big Parshas, but this was,
Okay.
Okay, have a great week. Enjoy a great day. And I will see you tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Okay.